Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom with Kate Olson. As an evolving spirit and change adventure navigator, it is Kate's mission to empower and guide you on your path and inspire your truest passions. She will encourage you to share your gifts, speak your truth, and ignite your inner wisdom and purpose. She hopes to do so with a little humor and grace and her own soulfire passion. Kate talks with amazing guests who have embraced the pursuit and are fanning the flames of their own passion, purpose, and soulfire wisdom. Now here's your host, Kate.
Good afternoon. So I hope you all had a nice Christmas. I had a wonderful Christmas. And today, as well as being Soulfire Wisdom, it's Thankful, Thoughtful Thursday. And what I'm thankful for today is that I do have such a wonderful family and that they're here in the Seattle area so that I'm able to spend time with them at Christmas. And we always have a wonderful time. So I hope you had a wonderful time too. And we have a great show planned for today. Our show is Transformation Journey with my guest Dana V. Adams. And Dana is the founder of the Life Mapping Institute and one of the thought leaders on the life mapping process. For decades, first as a student and now as a teacher and mentor, she has inspired, empowered, and led thousands to embrace their life's gifts to live a happy, abundant, and authentic life. After becoming a licensed real estate agent in 1993, Dana discovered the life mapping process reading Bill Cohen's book, Life Mapping. Combining the power of life mapping with her own gifts of a caring attitude, responsiveness, professionalism, and dogged determination, Dana built an award-winning real estate business. She's distinguished herself as a 7-time recipient of the 5-star Real Estate Agent Award, Managing Broker, Master Certified New Construction Specialist, and Luxury Marketing Specialist, as well as Master Certified Negotiation Expert, and is a member of the National Association of Realtors. She was born in Southern California, but she moved to Kirkland, Washington, with her family in 1979. She graduated from the University of Washington with a degree in business management and marketing, and she still lives in Kirkland. Dana loves taking long walks along Lake Washington and living a healthy, active lifestyle. Aside from her 4 sons, Dana's passions are lifelong personal development and community service. She's organized events on opiate awareness and served on the City of Kirkland Task Force for Sidewalks and Affordable Housing. And she currently sits on the Evergreen Health Youth Mental Health Task Force. So before we get started with questions about the life mapping, is there anything else that you'd like to tell us about your background and what brought you to your current path?
It was a long journey to the path that I'm on now, and I'm glad to be here talking with you. And pretty much for the majority of my real estate career, I had a sense that there was something more that I was also meant to be doing. Mm-hmm. And just because of a pretty chaotic childhood and lots of old stories and old beliefs that were really not healthy any longer, but were still really attached to me and the way that I was thinking, I was really just too afraid to step into what this work is that I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you said you had an intuition that you were meant to do writing and speaking. What made you feel that way, or what, you know?
So I was actually at a retreat for a leadership group with a cohort. We were going to be together for like a year, and we were being led on a guided visualization. And clear as day in that visualization, I could see myself on stage speaking, and the audience was large. I mean, like thousands of people in the audience. And I continued to sort of have this feeling of, there was something about writing. I had lots of journals and poetry and all kinds of things from my teenage years that I'd been carrying around with me for a long, long time. And I enjoy writing. And I just felt that there was something that was very meaningful to that visualization that I had. And even though I had this belief in it, I just didn't know how to step into it. And so it was the fears that I had that really held me back for so long. And even all the while, for over 2 decades, it just never went away. It was just always there, this belief that I had. And so I'm grateful that I got to the point where I was able to respond to that. And that was about 1.5 years ago. And again, I was attending actually another event. It was specifically, I was at an event where there was a group and it was about writing. And really on that day, I just decided that, I was done hiding from that. And I really wanted to step into that work. And I really wanted to be able to know that I had done something that I was afraid of, and I didn't have any guarantee of what the outcome was going to be, and that my boys would be able to witness me doing that. Not just that I, had, even though I'm a hard worker and they've seen that, they wouldn't have seen me try something like this that was as meaningful to me as it is.
Yes, getting past those fears is it's hard, but it always turns out to be a positive thing. And if you could show your kids that's it all the more special.
Yeah, agreed.
So so what type of writing and speaking do you do?
So the book that I wrote that came out earlier this year is called Live Your Gift.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a nonfiction book. And it also incorporates some of my story as well as other stories of people that have overcome big challenges to pursue living their gift.
Okay.
And the book talks about that, and then it teaches this life mapping process that you mentioned earlier. And that is a process that I have found incredibly helpful in allowing me to stay focused and guided on where I want to go into my future.
Mm-hmm.
It has a goal setting system within it, but also there's a really foundational piece first about being really clear on who we are and what our beliefs are, what our core values are, and those things that drive us and motivate us really at the core.
Mm-hmm.
And making sure then that the things that we do from there are actually in alignment with what those values and beliefs are. And that's not always the case. I have definitely found that in my life. It's easy to get into patterns where we're not necessarily choosing the healthiest thing for ourselves. But the book itself, the way that it teaches the life mapping process, then I do teach a workshop that helps to facilitate people creating their own life map. as well as when I'm speaking, I'm also speaking primarily about some of these things, which often are not visible or necessarily things that people can pinpoint about what might be holding them back.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the keynotes that I share have a lot to do with that, where they might be hidden, and then how we can unlock those to move past it.
Okay. So can you tell us exactly what is life mapping?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so life mapping, it is really a very sequential process. It's very easy to follow, but it's detailed and it's set forward in a way that the first part of it really is about us being very clear on our beliefs. We talk about principles, which is really, if we were to think of ourselves in our best light, then how would we be showing up in the world? What are the things we would be doing? Not just how we would interact with people, but how would we take care of our bodies, and how would we take care of ourselves spiritually or intellectually. And so getting really clear on that first, the great thing about going through those steps is that once you've done that, you really only need to review those things about once a year. Sometimes there's little shifts and little changes that will occur. And then it goes into a section that's really, it's called Optimal Me. And it's a lot about us making ourselves the priority first, so that when we do step out into the world, we're showing up in the best way we can for other people as well. And so there's all kinds of tools in there about just really recognizing what the things are that we typically do without even giving it a second thought when we're feeling pretty good about the situation that we're in our life. Also identifying things that we do for no particular reason, not for payment or reward or acknowledgement, but the things that we really love to do that just simply bring us joy. In having that awareness and making that connection, people really realize how little they actually are able to enjoy those things in their life currently. But having the awareness of it really allows people to invite more of it in, and being intentional about it, which is great.
Yeah.
And from there, it really builds on a goal-setting system and process that incorporates some science behind positive thinking and how we can change what some of those negative beliefs are, even in that, that quiet, the nasty voice, the inner bully, whatever you want to refer to it as. But that thing that can tend to hold us back, when we can identify what that is, then we work on how do we reframe it? How do we reword it from a much wiser place and a wiser voice of, ourselves when we're older and looking back, we would absolutely be encouraging ourselves to take those risks and do the things that are really important to us.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the beauty about the process is that it is something that can be integrated into your daily life so that it stays top of mind, because none of it's really second nature. But if people want to continue to move forward, or accomplish particular goals in work or in their life, it allows people to be really clear about what they need to do and what steps are next. And I think that's sometimes hard with bigger goals, that it's kind of like, where do I even start?
Yeah.
That's probably a lot of how I felt, especially before I started writing the book. I didn't have experience either as a public speaker. And so it was just recognizing all of the things I didn't know, and then realizing the things that I needed to learn. But with each investigation, I was able to know what the next thing was that I needed to do. And so that part of the process, I recommend people really refresh that every quarter. But it's so helpful. And those are the worksheets that are in the companion guide The companion guide is what I use when I'm leading the workshops, but anybody could have a companion guide because it takes you through creating a life map. And so the nice thing is that all of the tools and the worksheets that are in there, those are it's the exact method I used to be able to write the book, have time with my boys, still work in my real estate career, and, while staying sane at the same time.
Yeah, that is good. That is one of the most common places that people find themselves in is, having something that they want to do, but being stuck,
Mm-hmm.
and not.
Yeah. And I think the challenge with that sometimes is that it's easy if we're someone that cares about the person that's feeling stuck. It's easy as an outsider to say, oh my gosh, you should just go for it. You should just do it. You'll be so glad you did.
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes, and I know for me, that when those old beliefs are tied to painful experiences that we may have had in childhood, they can be so powerful without even necessarily being able to articulate why it's not as simple as, yeah, I should just do this. No problem. And so one of the tools in life mapping really steps people through how to identify the source of that old nasty voice, and then how do you flip it. And so that was something that I had to do before I started the book. And a lot of those old voices that would hold me back were about, one of the big ones was, Dana, you don't even have your own life figured out yet. Who do you think you are to share this with people? And, who do you think is going to want to listen? And just all of those doubting voices. And to be able to identify some of the experiences that I had when I was younger that really kind of impressed upon me, either where I was supposed to stay silent, or I didn't feel like I had a voice, or I didn't feel like what I had to share was important. In trying to put that in a context of realizing that in all of those situations, it really was never even about me. It was usually about what was going on in the other person's life.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to detach from that and realize, okay, I am an adult woman and I am capable of doing this, and I can shore myself up with support. That is really what allowed me to start to step into the work.
Yeah. Also, I think sometimes the bigger the goal or dream or aspiration that the person has, the more fear they build up over, the possibility of, okay, but what if I make a mistake?
Yeah.
And
Fear of failure was a big one for me. There was a lot of pressure that if you were going to do anything, it needed to be, the best all the time. And so when failure is not an option, it can make a really big, ambitious goal very scary and intimidating. Mm-hmm.
So, how does your life mapping process, how does it help people to be more aligned with their core beliefs?
Mm-hmm. So I think one of the first ways it helps is that, first of all, when we have this awareness of what our beliefs are, and in really thinking about, if I'm experiencing my best life or a great day or a great week, what does that normally look like? Or what would it look like if that's not even close to what my life is right now?
Mm-hmm.
And by recognizing what those things are and then asking ourselves, am I living like that now? Am I living to my highest potential, or what would bring me the most meaning in my life? And I think for a lot of people, the answer is no. And it's not necessarily that it's terrible in every area, but I know for me, one of the biggest areas where it was easy for me to see when I was out of alignment with myself was in relationships. And again, I think it goes back to being younger, having a family that parted at a pretty young age. And so I think I had this lack of self-worth or self-esteem that I could actually be okay by myself, or that I was worthy of more than I was experiencing in that relationship. And, for me, the way that it would show itself is I was the one that would start to build resentment. And it's easy to project it on someone else to make the other person, that they did this or they did that or they're this way. When in reality, when I step back from that, whatever it is that is creating resentment or building up attention or anger, that usually was always about me ignoring my wiser self, ignoring what I knew to be true for me and minimizing it, trying to just kind of shove it under the rug like, oh, I needed to be different than who I really am. And every time I would do that, the problems they never went away. But that's because it was all about me. So
Yeah, and that the other part of that is expecting something from somebody else that has to do with, what's going on inside of you.
Absolutely.
Because that's never going to work.
No, it isn't. And I don't think that sort of self-soothing or self-nurturing, any of that really helps create someone's self-esteem was really absent from my life. And so that was something that I had to be very aware of in trying to rebuild as an adult. In realizing, what are the ways that I could take care of myself. And you're right, because no one else will ever fill whatever that gap is.
Yeah, and when you grow up with, the people around you, they don't, really intentionally make you feel that way.
No.
It's just that if they don't know how to do that, they can't teach you.
Exactly.
So then you have that,
yeah,
feeling inside you that you think you need to go find somebody else to fill it up, and then they can't. And as you said, then you think, it's them, and really it's you.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, one of the best things that I ever did was really force myself to not be in relationship so that I could really work on just getting very solid in who I am. Because it's not healthy in a relationship. I'm not interested in taking that to other people. So I could really recognize that was work I could work on healing myself. And so the way that the life mapping process is presented, I think it really helps people to see where they may not be living in alignment with what truly is most important to them. And especially when it comes to what our core values are. There's always compromise in a relationship. But even if it's with work or anything else where we spend a lot of our time, is that if something isn't lined up with really who we truly are or what our values are, then it's never a good experience. And so if we turn our back on those things, it is like turning our back on ourselves. And so I think that's one of the key areas that people can make a pretty quick shift in how they're experiencing things and how they could potentially do it different or what might need to change. Yeah.
True. Very true. So, what are the main contributions that your process has made in your own life, and how do you stay aligned?
So one of the first ways that I stay aligned is that I do take a day every quarter to really go back through this goal setting process. And really what we do is we kind of go more big picture, and then we're trying to get down to really like, what are 3 things that we really want to focus on? And you know, there's lots of other things that are going on, but it's, if these 3 things had extra attention to them, they really make a difference in my life. If I looked back 3 months from now, that I would feel proud of that, or I would feel good about that. And so I think for me, it's the structure. It's the having a system to keep these things top of mind, when before they might have just been more ideas scattered around on pieces of paper or in a journal here or there, or a notebook somewhere, but not really all tied together to do something intentional with it. And so for me, that's been the best part of it, is the structure that is created, the accountability that I have with other people that are trying to work toward the same things, so that there's support. And so you can also celebrate the accomplishments along the way. But it's really been probably the most powerful difference, is realizing that I do have this ability to turn off the negative voices from the past. They do not control me. It's not that they have gone away for good, but I have a reflex now that, you know, when I hear that bad, you know, that just unhelpful, you know, discouraging voice come, I can almost feel it, and I can just say, nope, you know, I've got this. I am ready. You know, I am doing it. And it's just continuing to move forward. Realizing that the things that I do that scare me now, that is about being courageous and vulnerable, and realizing it's okay if I don't get it right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of empowering to realize that you can actually turn off those voices and feelings that, you know, that really made you suffer.
Yeah.
And, you know, decide to do it differently.
Yeah. And I know for me, and I think probably for a lot of people, it was almost more like a silent suffering, or this more of this internal disconnection that I felt, because I strongly believed in that intuition. And, you know, in the nudges that I would continue to get, whether it was in, you know, yoga, or I was out for an amazing walk, the fact that I continued to ignore that and sort of push it away as long as I did, the older I got, the more that really bothered me. And because of having being very clear on what my beliefs were, and seeing that, you know, I wasn't taking action, and that meant really I was out of integrity with myself. And that part I struggled with, and that was the part that I wanted the boys to see something different. And I think that's, you know, I think that's more of a powerful example of how to experience life in a way that we don't always know what the outcome is going to be, but it might be where our biggest joy is sort of hidden and waiting.
Yeah, that surprises a lot of people, because we don't like to hear that, you know, that the things that are making us feel bad or not working out for us in life are due to things that we ourselves are doing and creating. You know, we just don't want to hear that. But the upside of it is if that is the case, then we have the power where we can actually do something about it.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just about out of time. So if the listeners could take one thing away from today's show, what would you want that to be?
I would want that to be that people realize that there is a choice that they can have if they feel this internal calling for something more than what they have now. And even though they might not know how exactly to get there, that there is a path, and life mapping is one of those tools that can potentially help people to get there and to start moving toward, what that vision is that people have for their future.
Yes. Yes, that's kind of a little bit of soulfire wisdom there. So, could you tell people again what the name of your book is?
The book is called Live Your Gift.
Mm-hmm.
And it's available on Amazon in all of the formats, in Kindle and Audible, hardcover and paperback, as well as the Live Your Gift companion guide, which actually helps people create their life map. So they can find it on Amazon. They can also find it on the Life Mapping Institute website.
Okay. So how can people get a hold of you if they'd like to do that?
Yeah, so if they go to the Life Mapping Institute website, there's an ability to contact me there, to send an email if they like. I am also on Facebook in the Life Mapping Institute Facebook page, so would love to engage with people there as well. It's a place, both places they can go and sort of see what it's all about. There's some free resources that they can take a look at and see if it's something that fits for them.
Okay. And if you forget any of that, you can go to the radio website. That's embracechangeradio.com. Click on guests and scroll to Dana's photo, and the contact information is also listed there. So thank you so much for being here today and talking about this. As I said, that's one of the most common things that people come to me with, is just saying, I'm stuck. I want to do this, but I don't know how to start. Either stuck or overwhelmed. So it's very needed.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate being able to share.
Okay. And thank you for listening today. I hope that everybody's going to be celebrating the new year and welcoming in a wonderful new year. It's a new decade, and, think lots of optimistic thoughts for the coming year. And I have another great show planned for the first week in January. I will be switching both time and day. I'll be switching to Tuesdays at 3 p.m. And the first show of the new year will be finding clarity through intuition, and my guest will be Amy Carter. So tune in for that, and as I said, have a very happy new year.
Thank you for listening to Soulfire Wisdom with Kate Olson. We hope you enjoyed the show. If we made you laugh, brightened your day, or sparked a new thought, we have succeeded in our mission. Join us next time when we'll share more secrets and truths and all the magic of transformation that is the journey to Soulfire Wisdom. Always remember, be fierce in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire.